Good morning, everyone. My name is Caitlin Lopez with the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to the latest webinar that the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce co-hosts regularly with NJM Insurance Group. We're having another successful NJM series in 2025, and we've covered many key topics for entrepreneurs and small business owners. The one you are attending today is entitled Investing in the Next Generation, Why Supporting Young Professionals Strengthens Your Business. Let's get started. Today, we will explore the vital role young professional engagement plays in building stronger, more successful companies. This discussion will highlight why it's crucial for companies to encourage young employees to participate in professional networks and community initiatives, provide mentorship and clear career growth opportunities to help them feel valued and invested in, and foster an environment that supports learning, leadership, and long-term commitment. Whether you're a business leader, HR professional, or team manager, you'll gain practical strategies to empower your young workforce, ultimately strengthening your company's culture and future success. We have a lot of ground to cover in a short time, so we will get to audience Q&A. Go ahead and put your questions in the chat box, and we will get to them later in the program. As always, I would like to thank NJM Insurance Group for continuing to partner with us on these webinars. NJM has been a great corporate partner for the New Jersey Chamber and a great corporate citizen to the state of New Jersey. It is my pleasure to introduce Heather Jones, HR Talent Acquisition Specialist at NJM Insurance Group. And now Heather would like to say a few words. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Thank you, Caitlin. Good morning. I'm Heather Jones, Senior Talent Acquisition and University Relations Specialist for NJM Insurance Group. NJM is pleased to be the exclusive sponsor of the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce's Small Business Webinar Series. This morning's webinar will explore the vital role professional engagement plays in building stronger, more successful companies. I want to thank the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce for the opportunity to briefly speak with you this morning. The Chamber has been an essential voice for Garden State businesses for more than a century and a vocal advocate in the corridors of the Capitol and Trenton. NJM has been helping small businesses meet their business needs since 1913. We've been the largest writer of workers' compensation insurance in New Jersey for more than 75 years. We're also a leading provider of commercial auto insurance. We wrote those two, and only those two, lines of business for the better part of a century. However, we've since added products to better serve our policyholders and potential new customers. We expanded our footprint at the same time. NJM is now a leading regional insurer serving business customers in Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, New York, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. Our NJM Pro Edge Business Owners Policy combines protection for common property and liability risks designed for smaller businesses, and NJM Pro Pack commercial package policies protects mid to large-sized businesses against property and liability risks. NJM policyholders receive the highest levels of service, including access to our nationally recognized claim service and certified loss prevention specialists. We want to help our policyholders grow and, in turn, grow with them. If you're not an NJM business customer, I encourage you to visit njm.com. Thank you. Now it's my pleasure to turn the proceedings back over to Caitlin Lopez. He'll serve as our moderator.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you to NJM Insurance Group for sponsoring this webinar. Now we will get started with the panel discussion. Today we have with us Scottie Germain. He's a Senior Professional Corporate Citizenship at Fiserv. Hi, Scottie.
Hello, good morning, everyone. As Caitlin said, my name is Scottie Germain, and I am a senior professional on Fiserv's corporate citizenship team, as well as a board member of the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce's Young Professionals Network. For those of you that don't know, Fiserv specializes in payment solutions for businesses and consumers. My current role on the team entails managing all of our organization's employee resource groups, as well as external community partnerships. I graduated from Rutgers University in 2022 and have been with Fiserv since graduating. Very excited to be here today.
Great. Thank you, Scottie. We also have with us Sheila Kurman. She's the Chief Human Resources Officer at Prager Metis CPAs. Hi, Sheila.
Hi, and good morning, everyone. I'm Sheila Kurman, as Caitlin said, the Chief Human Resources Officer for the past 7 years at Prager Metis, CPAs, and we specialize in tax advisory and accounting globally, but a large majority of our clients here in the great state of New Jersey. So prior to my time here at Prager Metis, I was with one of the big four for over 20 years, also in HR in the accounting industry. So pleasure to be with all of you today.
Great, thank you. And we have Chris Lowicki, Community Services Specialist at NJ Sharing Network. Hi, Chris.
Morning. How's everybody doing today? Yeah, my name is Chris Lowicki. I'm with the New Jersey Sharing Network. We are a federally designated, federally overseen 501c3 nonprofit. We handle all of the organ and tissue donation for the state of New Jersey. And with Scottie, I'm also on the Young Professionals Board for the State Chamber. Happy to be here.
Thank you. And last but certainly not least, we have Fatema Raza, who is a partner at Withum. Hi, Fatema.
See everybody today. As Caitlin mentioned, I'm Fatema Raza. I'm a partner here at Withum. So Withum is a CPA firm. We focus our services on audit, tax, and advisory. We are a national firm, East Coast, West Coast. We've got everything in the middle. I focus my time in our financial services and real estate practices, but Withum is a full service provider. We service 16 different industries, so pretty much anything you can think of. This topic is near and dear to my heart. I've been with the firm for 15 years, and a lot of my success has come from mentors that have spent a lot of time developing me and developing our team members. So I'm really excited to talk about this today.
Great, thank you so much. All right, let's get started with our first question. So it is, why is young professional engagement so critical for a company's long-term success today?
I can kick us off here. I think as we grow, it's really important to form relationships early in your career. And that was something that was a piece of advice that was given to me. There's a few of us that are on the Young Professionals Board, and you really have to start young in your career, and you have to have mentors that are willing to give you that ability to go out into the network, spend the time, spend the money to develop your network. Because one piece of advice that was given to me was, as you grow, your peers will also grow in their organizations. And so you might just be a senior or a manager right now, but you're also going to be networking with seniors and managers at other companies. And as you become partner, those team members at their organizations will also become the controller or the CFO or some, a leadership role, or they might change organizations. And if you don't develop those relationships young, it becomes very hard to break into the circle that has already been developed.
I think one of the things, in addition to what Fatima is sharing, is even in the short term, more engaged professionals are going to be much more efficient and effective in their roles and responsibilities. And not only think about what you're doing, but why you're doing it. And once you think about that bigger picture, it gives you the ability to think about, how do we do things differently? How can we do things better? And really leads us to an environment of innovation and bringing ideas to the table that might be the best for you in your own career development and might be the best for the future growth of the firm.
Absolutely. And as we've seen in even the last 5 years, the business landscape is always rapidly changing. So it's good to get new talent on your team to get fresh perspectives and just get a different idea of looking at things.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's very important to get a fresh perspective. It really helps within the company. So from everyone's own experience, how has involvement in a professional or networking group accelerated your career growth?
I can take this one. So prior to working at the New Jersey Sharing Network, I was actually with the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce. So I like to say I was on the other side of the registration booth, checking people into events. And for me, I knew nothing about networking. I knew nothing about chambers of commerce when I first came. It was my first job out of graduation, and it completely opened my eyes to everything. I would not have the job I have now at the Sharing Network. I met everybody I knew at the Sharing Network while networking at the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce. I wouldn't be on the State Chamber of Commerce board, and my resume would be a lot shorter with all the extra activities I do outside of work if it weren't for those networking opportunities.
From my own experience, I joined Fiserv as a member of our corporate analyst program, and that program seeks to recruit people directly out of college. So they put a very large emphasis on joining our company's Young Professionals Network, ERG. So when I joined, I had about 250 other young professionals at my office who had just been recruited out of college. And they wanted to put a large emphasis on us going to networking events so we could meet other people within the company and just learn about different areas of the company as a whole. Through those networking events, I found out more about corporate citizenship, and that was something that I didn't know really anything about going into the company. And as I got to learn more and connect with more members of that team, I realized that it's something that I had a very strong interest in. And I was able to transition onto that team within the first year. So it was just a very, like, having that opportunity to network early on really helped position me for where I'm at currently.
Yeah, I think for me it was getting outside of my comfort zone. So when you're fresh out of college, you've got this energy, you're willing to go to these events, you've got a bunch of time. And I was lucky that Withum gave me those opportunities to go to, different chamber events and different young professional events, and allowed me to practice speaking to other people. It allowed me to, form my network. It allowed me to selfishly make friends that were, doing the exact same thing as me at other firms. So when you're having that moment of like, do I want to stay at a CPA firm? Do I want to do this long term? What are other people experiencing? Am I getting paid the right amount of money? I had peers, I had industry professionals that were doing exactly what I was doing at other firms. And so I was able to, form those relationships, not only generate business, but like sometimes you just want to talk to somebody that's doing exactly the same thing you're doing at another firm. And so I had those relationships that I could pick up the phone and call and be like, hey, can we grab lunch? I just want to chat. How was your busy season? Here's how mine went. Is this normal? You don't really know those things. So sometimes it's just nice to, it's not, I think the big thing is like, you don't just look at the end goal, right? The end goal, yes, is to have connections and to generate business and to grow and to do things like that. But I think in the short term, you have to look at, what is this relationship going to provide me in the next year? What is this going to provide me in the next years? And what can I provide the other person, right? And the other thing that, a lot of my mentors said to me is like, you're going to go to a networking event and say you meet 10 people. You're probably going to connect with three of them. You're not going to connect with all 10. And you don't have to connect with all 10, right? If you make three meaningful connections at an event, that is a success, right? And those three you've got to develop over the next year. You've got to meet with them, you've got to call them, you've got to stay in touch with them. So I think those like small things starting early in your career, as you grow and develop, those skills really go a long way, right? You develop what works for you. So, early in my career, I would meet all these people, I would get all these business cards, and and then you lose track of them, right? You're going to the next event and the next event and the next event. And it's like, I met these people. How do I keep in touch with them? You form systems, right? And I'm an accountant, right? I'm a CPA, so I'm very like internal control driven and process driven and things like that. So like I have a spreadsheet and I have like, here's where I met them. Here's the date I met them. Here's the last connection I had with them. Here's what we have in common, right? And I even put notes in there like, here's what their family looks like. They had a baby, they're expecting, that right? Like things like that, so that I open it up every so often and I'm like, who do I need to connect with, right? Who did I know that had a baby? And maybe I'll send them a little something. Hey, thinking about you. I know you're expecting, things like that. So I just think like the earlier you start in your career, the better it is for you in the long run, because not only for the relationship to develop over years, but for things like that, for you to come up with a process of what works for you, how you network well, what events work for you. Do you like big events? Do you like small events? And these aren't things that like somebody can tell you. These are only things that you can really learn from and grow and develop by going yourself.
I think
Great, thank
Fatima's
you.
hitting on a really important point as do what feels natural to you. Like in whatever events you're going to, make sure you're interested in the topic or at least with the conversation in hand. Or make sure that when you're interacting with people, it's something that's meaningful to your experience, because it's that much easier to have that follow up in the future. Of course, as an HR person, very similar to Fatima, I'm a big goal setter. So for me, setting a goal of how frequently am I going to touch base with this person? What's the trigger when I'm going to reach out to different individuals has been very helpful. And probably one of the biggest examples that I've gotten a benefit from a networking event is I met a subject matter expert in developing training. So not only the, kind of curriculum management, but actually the development of a course. And so as an HR professional, I'll call him often and say, I could really use your advice on this. What have you seen? And on the flip side, I'm able to give him some career coaching. And so it works for both of us. And we make sure we at least touch base quarterly. So I think kind of the do what is natural for you, and the follow-up is just as important as attending the events.
Yeah. There's another thing Fatima hit on I thought that was really important about like learning how to do it and getting out there and just doing it and becoming comfortable. Like in college, you can learn how to do accounting, you can learn how to do engineering, you can learn all those like hard skills, but they don't really teach you those soft skills. They don't teach you how to shake somebody's hand, how to hold a conversation, how to follow up, how to develop a relationship long term, how to work a room, or even learning yourself, whether you like bigger events or smaller events, like you said. And I think that's something that really develops over time while you're out there networking. You're probably going to be bad at it at first. You're going to be uncomfortable at first, but just the more you get out there, it's a constant learning and growing experience.
Perfect. So we talked about the benefits for yourself, for networking. Let's dive into what specific benefits companies can see when they actively support young professionals and have a development program for the young professionals.
Yeah, so I mean, at Withum, we actually have a formal process. It's called our business development program, and we actually give our team members points. So if you go to a networking event, you get 15 points. If you're speaking at something, you get 80 points, right? Because if you're speaking at something, it's way more meaningful than if you're just attending an event. But I think through this process, what we've seen is we've got some really good natural business developers, right? We're kind of allowing the whole population of people to go out and network, and then we're able to find, hey, this person is a natural networker. We got to allow them to spend more time networking because they're good at it, right? It has allowed us internally to see different personalities and see, hey, this person's a networker. This person is a client service person, right? And that's what they're good at. But it helps us allow them to find the right seat on the bus for themselves. And from our standpoint, when you allow people to do that, one, they don't want to leave, right? Because they're not forced to do something they're uncomfortable with, right? Not everybody is going to be a natural networker or good in the market. And for them to be able to learn that early in their career and say, hey, listen, I'm going to be a client service person. Or, the opposite side of that is somebody is very good at marketing and they, might not be overly technical and that's okay too, right? And so we allow them to spend more time in the market and it allows you to do something that you like and that you're good at. And so when you're doing something you like and you're good at it, you don't want to leave, right? Because you're happy every day. You want to go to work. You want to do these things. So not only has it allowed us to grow from a revenue standpoint, but it's allowed us to retain talent, which I think is equally as important.
And
That's
going off of
really well
that,
said. Go ahead, Scottie.
I was going to say, going off that idea of attracting and retaining young talent, one thing that attracted me to Fiserv specifically was their investment into that corporate analyst program. Seeing that they had such a strong investment in hiring and developing young talent made me feel like that this was a company where I could grow. This was a company to where I would have peers around my age range who are also trying to develop in their careers. And having that community there has really helped me be happy at the company, helped me want to stay there and just continue growing the career there.
Caitlin, we've got some questions in the chat. I don't know if you want us to address those now or if we're saving them till the end.
We will save them until the end. We'll definitely get to them. Thank you so
Mind
much.
if I ask Fatima what she does with the point system?
Yeah,
Really terrific idea.
We do them throughout the year, and then at the end of the cycle of our business development program, we actually write checks to everybody. So you collect points,
Nice.
and then they get a nice big payout at the end. So
That's
we're
great.
incentivizing them to do something, and we've seen a good return on investment there as well.
Wow.
That's terrific. That's where I thought you were going to go with that. It
Yeah.
sounds like a great program.
And it was great for me, right? Like this program started, I think when I was a staff two or a senior, And one of the first events that I went to, it's always intimidating, right? You're going to these events, you're like, what do I do? Who do I talk to? But I remember starting at Withum. I went to the largest networking party, which is in New Brunswick, huge event, right? And I was, walking the room talking to people, and I was talking to a banker, and he said to me, like, "Oh, tell me about yourself, tell me about your career." And I was like, "I've been working at the firm for 2 days now, and I'm at this event." And he's like, "Okay, like how can we work together?" And I'm like, "Well, it would be really great if I went back to Witham with a client. So if you ever have any clients that are looking for audit or tax, let me know." And he ended up calling me like a week later. He had a client, and I remember like running to my boss at the time and be like, "I think I got a client. I don't know, but I think I got a client." And he was just like, "Oh, okay." And it did end up turning into a client, which again, I know this story doesn't like, it's not going to happen to everybody. And I got very lucky. But what I learned from that is, if, you have to ask, right? You have to be intentional about things. But, shortly after that experience, I think the firm realized like we should send young professionals, right? We need them in the market. And so a few years later, we came up with this business development program, and it's been really successful. It allows our young professionals to go together, right? You don't have to just go to an event by yourself. It doesn't have to be a specific industry event. It could be something like the largest networking party. It's just about getting out there, right? It's about getting out there. It's about meeting people. You never know where things are going to come from, right? Like, some people think other CPA firms are our competitors. And I'm like, no way, right? Like, some of my best referral sources are other CPA firms, right? Because I'm conflicted out, they're conflicted out. I'm doing the audit, I can't do the advisory. They're doing the advisory, they can't do the audit, right? And so I think it's just about being out in the market, talking to people, forming relationships. People want to work with people they like, right? So sometimes you're not going to get along with everybody. We're all on the young professional board, right? So if there's a man in his 70s, right, he probably already has his network of people. He will probably not call me. We don't have a ton in common, so that is not where I'm going to spend my time, right? I like to find people that are, similar in their similar level, similar age, similar hobbies, similar family, right? They have young kids. And I feel like we can form those relationships. So when it is time to pick up the phone, oh, I want to call Fatima, right? I know that this is something that she can handle or Withum can handle, and she will connect me to the right person because I've talked to her for 3 years, and I like her, right? I like her. And so, that's where we've seen success. But again, you've got to get those young professionals out there, right? And I saw somebody posted like, how do you get your organization to do this, right? Ask. Sheila's on the HR side. Like, I think most companies will not say no if it's something that you want to try. I think we all want to like allow people to do these things. It's part of your growth. It's part of um, liking what you do every day, right? So I think that ask and see what happens, right? Find a mentor if you don't want to go to the CEO of the company and ask the CEO, right? Find a mentor. I think mentorship is really important too. So find somebody that supports you that you can say, "Hey, I have this idea. How do you think I should approach it?" Right? Every organization is different. Sometimes maybe you go through HR, sometimes maybe you go through a mentor. But figure out the right path to propose the idea and come up with a plan. I would like to go to these 3 events. Here's why I selected these 3 events, right? Here's where I think the ROI from these 3 events is going to be. And then after the events, right, follow up and say, "I went to this event and yes, it was wonderful. And yes, I met these 5 people. And here's my plan going forward." Or, "Listen, I went to this event, but I don't think I'm going to go again. It wasn't successful. It wasn't the right fit for us. And here's why," right? I think it's really important to close that loop. Um, so the next time you ask, they're more willing to let you go. They're more willing to support you. Um, but
Yeah.
that's what I've seen has been very successful.
Yeah, especially when you're showing that you're thinking through the return on investment. Like, did it make sense for my time and, the collective money to go? Maybe, maybe not. And it shows that you're being thoughtful about it. I will say, when Fatima, you were just sharing, different types of events too. I just saw that the Alvin Ailey Dance Company, last week had a young benefactors cocktail hour. So you may not even be thinking of that, but your participation in the appreciation of the arts may be an opportunity for you to network with people with similar interest. And so think beyond some of the typical, like Fatima and I are both in the accounting industry, the typical accounting industry. There are other places that you can network and be successful. And if you haven't seen Alvanelli, please go do it. They have shows at NJPAC. It's great.
I couldn't agree more, by the way. Some of my strongest connections have come from the most unlikely places. And Fatima, to follow up on what you were saying, it really is about getting that buy-in. When I first came to the sharing network, my role as community services specialist was to get out into the community, right? Raise awareness. And for the sharing network, when I came in, that looked like giving presentations at high schools, giving presentations at nursing schools, setting up a table like in the community. Like that was their idea. And I came in with this idea of networking, getting the corporate world involved. And at first, there was, I wouldn't say hesitation, but they didn't totally get it at first. I found a couple of events. And another thing is there are a ton of free events out there, like a ton of free networking events. The state chamber, they host 4 member networking events that are free and open to non-members. And the young professionals program, we host 3 to 4 events that are free and open to non-members. That's 8 events you can go to for free at the state chamber. So anyway, you find the free events, you go out, and then again come back and say, I made this connection. I was in the room with this person. This person's coming in for a tour. I got this speaking event out of it. Find that buy-in. And then, at least from in my experience, once it was the buy-in, I'm at like 4 to 5 events a week. They're sending me to stuff I wasn't even aware of, and I just am constantly cobbling my my calendar together. But really, really good point. Get the buy-in.
Chris, if you don't mind, let's touch on how you said that you brought an idea up that no one brought up before. So we've talked about the benefits. Let's talk about challenges that young professionals will face, because I think that's going to happen. What happens if you feel like your supervisors, maybe they're not helping as much, they're not being as receptive to your ideas? How do you go about pitching your idea, feeling comfortable to do that? And yeah, what challenges have you faced?
So 2 things. One, I learned a phrase recently called managing up, which I find really interesting, which basically means like learning your boss, learning your manager, kind of learning their ticks, what they like, what they don't like, and working around that. So sometimes it could be your phrasing, sometimes it could be the way you're putting it across, or the thing that you think about it is really important. They don't, but they might find another piece that's really important. So just kind of step out of yourself for a second, look at it from their perspective, and figure out how to present it to them where they're going to appreciate it. That's number one. And number two is just persistence is key. You can take no for an answer, but you can ask multiple times. So don't run away with your tail tucked between your legs. Feel free to go back and again, try again, just from another perspective. That would be my advice.
Yes, I think you hit on something too. It's also when you have that conversation, right?
Mm.
The timing of that conversation could be important. So the frequency, you might hit a better environment for that idea to actually grow roots. But I do think the big piece of when also is if it's too close to whatever the idea or event launch is, sometimes it's like, oh, we don't have the time or capacity to think about that. But the more lead time you give that idea, hey, this is coming up 3, 4 months from now, and I think it would be good for me or us to be participating in this. I think you give more space for the conversation and probably a higher success rate.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Sorry, Scotty, you go.
I was just going to say, like, figuring out when and how to deliver that message is so important because coming in as a young professional, one of my biggest challenges coming in was facing that imposter syndrome, sort of feeling like, oh, I don't necessarily belong in this office. These people have been here for years. I just got here. But it's important to remember that you're in that space for a reason. Like, they hired you because they like your ideas. They want to hear from you. So if you meet objection at first, it might not have been the right timing or it might not have been framed the right way, but it's important to just be persistent and just keep keep supporting your ideas. Like, you're there for a reason. They want to hear from you.
That's great. And speaking of, they want to hear your ideas. Does anyone have a specific example where a young professional's engagement directly contributed to the innovation or positive change at your organization?
So at Prager Metis, we have an annual excellence awards, and those awards support our strategic pillars for the firm, one of which is our innovation award. And as far back as I can think, the innovation award has gone to a young professional. And most of those ideas have been around use of technology. So identifying where technology could be helpful for our organization, identifying a vendor that would be helpful in meeting the needs and bringing that to the forefront, or even in execution and adoption of we've rolled out this new technology, but there was a young professional that really took the lead on making sure people understood the change, understood the system, and understood the benefits of it. So for at least last 3 years, in my mind, that innovation award has gone to a young professional, and most of those stories have been about adoption or ideas around technology.
Agree with that 100%. We have an innovation team at Withum, and anybody's allowed to submit ideas to that team. And I will say, I want to, 90% of those ideas come from our team members that are actually doing the work, right? Because they're like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And so they come up with idea, they submit it to innovation. Innovation works directly with that team member to come up with the solution there, whether it's automating something, creating a new workbook, using AI, developing a tool that the firm can use. And, it helps us all get better and more efficient, right? When the economy's great, nobody's worried about fees and pricing. And as soon as, there's a little shift, everybody's like, I don't want to pay that much, right? I don't want to pay that much. And so how do you automate a process that a person was doing, right? So it's good and it's bad, right? Because it's also forcing our team members to like learn things differently. So um, our CEO was talking about this at our partner retreat of the way that we all learned, say it's a tax return, the way that we all learned was preparing the tax return, right? Going in there and putting in the W-2 number, putting in your interest income. And the way that our team members now learn is that gets sent to a software. A software inputs that data into the tax software, and our team member that would originally prepare the tax return is actually reviewing the tax return, right? So they're working one level above where the rest of us worked, but they're learning different, right? Because when you're preparing something, you're learning differently than when you're reviewing something, right? Um, but you've got to grow. You've got to use technology, right? You've got to innovate new ideas. You've got to standardize processes. And again, it's allowed us to see those people that think like that, right? I always talk about finding the right seat on the bus for everybody. It allows us to think about those people that think outside of the box. These people are coming up with these ideas, right? Some people are heads down working. These people are like, how do I work smarter, not harder, right? So I think you find a lot of good leaders there. Like Sheila said, we also have awards at Withum and at our State of the Firm. We give out these different types of awards. We've got a leadership award that goes to, and we break it out by level because we want to make sure we're recognizing those team members that are the staff ones and staff twos and that are just coming out of college that have these fresh ideas. We want to encourage them to tell us about these, right? Don't be scared. Don't be like, oh, they've definitely thought about this before, right? They don't need my input. No, we need your input, right? We've been doing this, like I've been doing this for 15 years. Like I think this is the only way because this is what I've been doing for 15 years. But we've got team members that start and they're like, oh, did you ever think to do it this way? And I'm like, no, but that's genius,
No.
right? Right. And so if I'm having that thought, I'm sure everybody else is too. So um, I think that innovation is great and encouraging those young team members to bring up ideas, right? I think Scottie and Chris hit on it earlier, right? Take ownership of your career. This is your career, right? Be persistent. If there's an idea and like it doesn't work the first time, re-engineer that. Okay, I didn't sell that correctly, right? Use AI to help you script a different response, right? Like everybody knows how, how their manager thinks, right? We've got the managers that will, buy into everything you're selling. You've got those managers that are kind of like change resistors. And so finding the personality, and then, I always like use AI, right? Use ChatGPT, use Copilot, use these tools that we have to say like, okay, here's how I'd like to approach this. Here's the personality that I'm trying to sell it to. What are your thoughts? How do I regenerate this, right? I went to an AI seminar and they were talking about how AI can help you script these things, right? So just help yourself think differently. If it doesn't work, be persistent and keep going.
It's funny. I was reflecting as you were talking through that story. I didn't mention this in my background, but my first role coming out of college was with IBM. And at the time, I'll go ahead and date myself, the internet was new, right? I was one of the first college students doing research on the internet to write a paper. And so I walked into IBM with all of these technology giants and thought, they have way more experience than me. I was a little shy about sharing whatever my idea was in the moment. But I had a senior leader kind of walk me to lunch and say, hey, listen, you're here for a reason. And I was like, oh, okay, great. And I can share my ideas. They're just my experiences. It doesn't mean that I have better or worse experiences than all these senior leaders at IBM. But all of you are in a very similar position. You have just as much AI experience as the most senior, if not more, than the most senior leader in your organization. So don't be shy about sharing your knowledge.
Yeah. And while we mentioned, taking ownership of your career and this is your career and fight for your stuff, you don't operate in a silo. Nobody operates in a silo. Everybody needs help. So find a mentor. And I remember a couple years ago when I was first getting into the young professional space, that phrase came up seemingly every day, mentor, 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 mentor. And I was like, I don't know what that is. I don't know how to find one. Are there job applications for mentors? It made no sense to me. It wasn't until I looked back on my career and realized that people were helping me along the way, that they were mentors all along, and I had no idea. And it kind of goes back to that original piece of networking where it's like, get out there, talk to the people where you work, find people that are older than you, that are more experienced than you, that have been there for a while, and talk to them. Just become their friends. It doesn't have to be a formal, you're my mentor, you're going to give me advice and help me along. Just ask questions at lunch, ask questions over a cup of coffee in the morning.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Mentors are so important. A lot of my success has come from mentors, right? You want to form those relationships, and a mentor, it doesn't have to be a formal relationship, right? It could just be, and I think the best ones develop informally, right? You
Yeah.
find somebody that you trust and you're like, hey, am I crazy? Like, here's what happened, right? And
Mm.
then slowly you're like, or it's somebody that helps you, right? Like early in my career, um, there was times during busy season where I'm like, I have 80 hours scheduled and there is no way I can work 80 hours, right? And I remember going to three people and like one of them found a solution for me and I was like, all right, that's my guy. He can fix things, right? And I still follow him around now and I always tell him like, thank you for all your mentorship over the years, like, but you need those people, right? You need those people that have been there longer than you. You need those people that are ready to invest in the next generation, right? And I think there's a lot of people like that. And you don't have to say like, hey, Chris, can you be my mentor, right? That relationship is just going to happen. And then in 5 years from now, you're going to be like, oh, that's a really good mentor, right? You
Yeah.
don't, you don't like realize in the moment that that person is a mentor, but like when you look back, you're like, wow, that was amazing. Like one of the stories that I'll share is we recently changed CEOs. So Bill Hageman, who's part of the chamber, retired, and Pat Walsh came on. And I was going on maternity leave. We were doing our 5-year strategic plan. And I remember just sending him a message and being like, I'm going on maternity leave, but I really want to be involved in this. And he was like, okay, no problem. Like, focus on having your baby. We'll chat when you're back. And, I'm just very proactive. So I sent him another message like, hey, Pat, I'm officially starting leave, but like, again, don't forget about me. I want to be involved in this. Um, and I went on leave and I came back in January. And when I came back, he was like, I know you told me you really wanted to be involved, so we're going to have you co-lead our operations pillar under our strategic plan. Are you in? And I was like, he remembered, right? Like he remembered that I wanted to be part of this. And I remember Bill and I Bill was one of the people that hired me. So I had that relationship with Bill, right? And so when Bill left, I'm like, how is this going to be with Pat, right? And the fact that he like made that first step, I was like, all right, he's going to be a mentor, right? He's invested in me. He's going to help develop me. And so just the fact of like giving somebody an opportunity like that, right? And asking, right? I asked for that. And so a good mentor will definitely come back and say, she asked for it. I have to remember on the other side to make sure I do it. And again, he didn't know me. He didn't have to give me that opportunity. But it was something that I asked for and something that he allowed me to take ownership of to see if I would be successful. Um,
And
so,
Fatima, that's so important. Like the importance of just asking and saying what you want, because they can't read minds. Like they don't know what you want. So don't be afraid to speak up, ask for opportunities, um, say how you feel, because people they don't know. So you can't assume that people know the work that you're doing, know what you want to do. So don't be afraid to say what you want to say, and make sure you're proactive and you ask for what you're looking for.
yeah. And
An
again,
easy ask
if I,
sometimes is shadowing, right?
yeah,
Can I shadow you? And it's doesn't take anything away from any senior leader or manager to say, sure, I'll bring you. Now, not every meeting or project can you be brought on to, but I had just an ask last week. One of my team members said, "Can I attend that budget meeting with you?" I would have never thought of that. It just wouldn't have crossed my mind, but I know that it'll be a good learning opportunity for her, and I know she'll bring a different perspective to the table in the room and outside of the room. But sorry, Fatima, I think I interrupted you.
no, I was just gonna say, and sometimes like people, like you said, like you don't think about it, right? Like maybe, Pat was thinking like she's going on leave. She doesn't want to come back like full steam ahead. Like maybe she wants to ease back in. I don't want to like overwhelm her, right? So
Mhm.
similar to Sheila, exactly what you were saying, right? Like sometimes you don't even think about it until somebody asks, and then you're like, oh yeah, why didn't I think of that? That makes complete sense.
If anyone wants to start asking more questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. I'm going to ask a couple more questions and then we can get to the chat box. So what advice would you give to companies that are looking to launch a young professional network or a development program? It's something they've been thinking about, but it hasn't been done yet. How can you help companies start something like this? Maybe challenges that they may face or the positives of doing this, and what the process looks like for getting this started in their organization.
As somebody that I like to say restarted a young professionals program when I was at the state chamber, don't invent the wheel. Look and see what's already out there, and don't photocopy, but take a look and see what's working for them, see what you like, see what you don't like. And don't be afraid, this conversation we're having about asking, don't be afraid to reach out and ask somebody to hop on a phone call and just pick their brain. That's exactly what I did when this project of, doing young professionals put on my desk. I looked at the Princeton Mercer Chamber. They had a thriving, and I see Amy's on the call. They had a thriving young professionals program. And back then it was Kat Lecco that was running the program. I just emailed her and asked if we could hop on a call and talk about young professionals. An hour later, I had my full plan laid out in front of me, and here we are. So don't reinvent the wheel and don't be afraid to ask around.
Going off of what Chris said, I believe like starting by listening to young professionals who grew in your organization or maybe young professionals outside of your organization and figuring out what helped them develop, if there were certain mentorship opportunities or certain networking groups at their organizations that really helped them just grow into the professionals they are, is a great way to start in terms of just figuring out what works and just kind of just seeing how that can be applied to your organization.
Sharing of ideas. I think that's our theme, right? You can
Yeah.
call any of us, you can call anybody in the industry. I think everybody's very open to share ideas.
And Fatima, I think you touched on everything regarding the Withum model and the point system and everything. Carolyn had asked how we can guide employers to have like a similar Withum system, if there's anything else you wanted to touch on for your model.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think the question is how can we, a professional association, guide employers to have similar systems, right? I think it's coming up with a business plan, right? So Chris said it, don't create it from scratch, but also don't photocopy it, right? So come up with a plan, go to somebody in your leadership team or a mentor and say, I'd like to implement something like this. What are your thoughts? Is there a reason we don't have something like this, right? Maybe it's just nobody has wanted to take ownership of something like this, or there hasn't been a leader that's willing to take the lead on it. Then you can say, hey, I'd love to take the lead on this. I talked to these 3 industry professionals that are similar associations to us. And so I know it's out there in the market and we might be missing something by not doing it. Here's my pitch, right? What are your thoughts? And really asking, right? I think that's, we all touched on that. Asking is step 1, because people might not even be thinking about it.
I think one of the keys to asking, we have to refresh our program. And I've been having multiple conversations about that. And just yesterday, I had a conversation with an associate that I didn't know had her professional coaching certification. She's like, I would love to give you more ideas. And I'm like, I would love for you to give me more ideas. So you never know who you're going to run into, networking internally or externally. And I think the other thing that I have found, kind of what Fatima was saying, sometimes it's because we don't have the right person who wants to be dedicated to get that really off the ground. And so the other thing I think I've learned is a pilot can be very helpful. Start small, figure out what works and what doesn't work. Can't really assume that it's going to work for every office or business unit or industry, but starting small and you kind of relieve yourself of the pressure of it being perfect, right? We're just going to try this, see what happens, and adapt as we go.
Perfect. We have a question from Dan. He says, I am a young inventor, startup founder working on eco-friendly product design. Do you have any recommendations for effectively connecting with relevant industry leaders?
I would say just get out there, go to as many events as possible. Um, Obviously, if there's a specific industry you want to start in, that you want to target, start there. I would also say if there's a specific area you want to target, there are both local and regional chambers in every county and just about every town in New Jersey. So really f figure out who you want to get in front of and work from there. And again, also don't be afraid to go somewhere you might not think is going to work out because you never know who you're going to run into.
I would say, if there's something specific that you're looking to target, find industry specific events, right? So at Withum, we all focus on different industries. So our technology practice goes to tech conferences, our financial services practice goes to financial services conferences, right? So if you're developing a product that would fall under like our industrial and consumer products, right? And so they go to specific conferences. So you can also ask, your CPA or your attorney or whatever service providers you're utilizing to say like, hey, what events are you going to, right? Because they want to meet you and you want to meet them. So, find out like, hey, for a company of my size, what events would you recommend that I go to so that I can meet people? And I'm sure your service providers would be happy to provide you a list that, I'm sure Sheila, you like partners at your firm can probably provide their clients list, right? I can provide you a
Absolutely.
list or I can connect you with like an industry leader and that person can provide you a list. So utilize your network and say, hey, here's what I'm looking for, whether it's, product design or manufacturing or whatever that specific thing is. Do you know an event that I can go to that I would be able to meet these people?
And talking about, growing within your industry, Tarek had asked, how about within your community? I know, working within the community and giving back is very important with the young professionals. Does anyone have recommendations on getting involved with your community, whether it be through your organization or a place that you discovered on your own?
Yeah, so I'm involved in a couple of things. I'm involved with New York Baykeeper, which is an organization that, it takes care of our water and our and make sure it's clean and it's protected. And I'm involved there just because I grew up going to the beach, and I thought, what a great organization, right? I want my kids to be able to go to the beach in 10 years from now. And their mission is just, it's always been special to my heart. And the other thing that I'm involved in is my kids' school and the PTO, just because I'm one of those moms that wants to know what's going on, right? So one of the pieces of advice that I got early in my career is only get involved with organizations that you care about.
Mm.
Don't just join an organization just to like check the box of like, I'm involved in my community, because you're not going to be involved in your community, right? It's got to be something that you're passionate about. It's got to be something that you care about. And so there's tons of organizations, right? And so you can go online and you can research. You could probably reach out to your peers and say, what are you involved in? You could reach out to, your service providers and say, hey, do you know anybody that does this, right? I think most of us are involved in something, and we're always looking for more volunteers. So reach out to your network and say, hey, I want to get more involved with something that is for the environment, or something with children, or something with, um, you know, health research, or whatever that topic is that you care about. I think organizations are always looking for volunteers. So that is probably the easiest thing to do, is raise your hand and say, I can help. I can help with this. I can help with this. I can help for 3 hours. I think not-for-profit organizations will take pretty much anything that you can volunteer.
Yeah. To tie it back into the networking thing, nonprofits network too. And one of the things I always try and do, because I go to so many different events, I always try and figure out a goal before I walk in the room. What am I working on today? Who am I trying to talk to, and for what purpose? And when you go in with a mindset like that, people's name tags are going to jump out to you. The different moments in the conversation are going to jump out to you. So if you are going out there network, yes, you might be on behalf of your company, but if you have a specific goal in mind, chase that goal, and you will find the nonprofits you're looking for. And just like Fatima said, they're all begging for volunteers, so they will trip over finding the information to get to you to sign up.
Yeah. And you prioritize what's important to you. Just, we're all human. That's what we prioritize. And so if there's an organization that it's important to you, you're more apt to spend the time and spend the effort and reap the benefits of those efforts.
Perfect. We're getting towards the end of our program. If there's any questions that we didn't get to today, feel free. You can shoot me an email, reach out to me. More than happy to discuss your questions with you. I want to thank Scottie, Sheila, Chris, and Fatima for a great discussion. We discussed a lot of important issues, and you guys provided so much insight for our young professionals. And hopefully today's program helped the webinar participants better navigate these transformational times. And a quick reminder that the Chamber has many major events coming up in 2026. We have the return of the Renew Jersey Business Summit and Expo. So that's going to be March 31st and April 1st at Harris Atlantic City. That is a great networking opportunity for our young professionals. There's going to be a ton of attendees. We have our golf outing, which is May 18th at Beatonsbrook and Skillman. Our annual open house and reception is June 11th at the New Jersey State Museum in Trenton. Another event with a ton of attendees, great networking opportunity. And we also have our member mixers on February 26th and May 14th. And we have all the additional information for all these events at njchamber.com. And again, I would like to thank our sponsor, NJM Insurance Group, for this webinar. And I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. And I hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.